is a thesis statement is a central idea that conveys your purpose or reason for writing and requires supporting evidence. A thesis is a promise to the readers. That means that when you are reading through a paper, you should be able to figure out, okay, I know what the thesis of this is. Someone yesterday during the strategic reading exercise asked me, what is the thesis of this article? Where can I find it, right? And so I was able to sift through and see at the very end of the section, we saw that the author said, okay, my thesis is that good writing means good strategic leaders, right? Makes good strategic leaders. So yeah, Blaze, a sentence expressing the main argument. It states a position, right? It's not just a fact. It uses concrete language. That means that when you have a thesis statement, you're able to edit it in a way that is understandable to your audience, right? Using language that is understandable, that is relevant to your topic. A thesis statement should be an appropriate length, not too broad, not too narrow. We'll go over what that means. It should be focused and specific and should answer the questions that are posed. Some of you said, I think one of you said that it answers a question. Yes, exactly. If there is a question that someone is trying to answer, the thesis statement will be a response to that question. It resolves an identified problem or announces your position on a debatable topic. So you all kind of answered what a thesis statement is. Thesis statements in as far as how it relates to American writing is that it typifies a lot of that Western writing culture. So for example, it's very symbolic of the values of busy people. Americans are very busy. We're tied to our jobs. We want to get things done, right? So we want to be straight and to the point. So I have here the differences between Western types of writing and a more Eastern or Asian or Chinese type of writing specifically, where we want to make sure that we get straight to the point. A lot of you come from cultures that are like this, and that's definitely okay. Where you want to kind of talk around the topic. You don't want to be too direct because that can be perceived as rude. So you're like, oh, well, maybe, the military should take some steps in order to help the civilians in some ways, right? But that's not really a Western or American style. American style says, yes, the military should take an active role, or no, the military should not be involved. That is what we're talking about with a thesis. It should be more concrete, it should be more concerted. And definitely feel free to ask questions or type your questions in the chat if you want to comment or have anything you want to say. So to think about a thesis statement, you want to think about what your claim is or what your position, okay? And so many times I sent some of your feedback in to your diagnostic through email. And so sometimes I'm asking you, okay, this is your position, but let me take the opposite approach. If I was going to ask a counter argument, what would I ask? Right? And so this is where you come in and say, okay, to respond to that, here's what I would say. So for example, if you say, yes, United States military should include doctors and medical personnel and engineers to help out in a coronavirus effort, then I will say, okay, think about what the other side says. The other side might say, so you're telling me that you're putting armed service members in potential danger. Is this what they signed up for when they decide to join the armed forces? So something like that. You want to make sure that you have the other side's point of view, but you want to make sure that you yourself articulate your own direct point of view. Okay, so this is where you can make your claim and your position. But it's not simple enough just to have a position. You want to make sure you provide reason and evidence, because that is the kinds of argument that really conveys your point. Okay, so your thesis statement is your claim plus your reason. So The purpose of a thesis I talked about before. You want to clarify your point. You want to organize your argument. It helps you stay focused on your writing. Sometimes I'll ask you for your thesis, and then later on in your paper, I'll say, hey, listen, there's a point that you made here that doesn't follow in line with your thesis. What happened, right? So your thesis is really to help you focus on track. You want to make sure to be very direct. And it also helps your reader understand what your paper is about. Okay, so we talked about what is a thesis. So what makes a good thesis statement? Please type in the chat box your thoughts about what makes a good thesis statement. Okay, it says short and precise, clear and precise without ambiguity, evidence, very focused and clear, a practical question, right? Something that can be solved, right? Want to say, oh, maybe, right? That's not a good thesis. Short, understandable, and clear, short, and focused. Yes, a lot of short. Jelson says clear and convey an argument that can be discussed. Okay, so I also think that a thesis statement should be interesting. Okay, so, because you don't want to paper and say, oh, I'm not interested in this topic. Why would your reader read your topic if it's not interesting? So you want to make sure that you catch your reader in some way. And so your thesis statement can really help you with that. Oka says a thesis statement concludes the paper, simple and clear. I would challenge you, Oka, and say I wouldn't say it concludes. It's the very beginning, underneath your introduction. Okay, so you're writing your introduction. I would put it at the very end of your introduction paragraph. Blaze says a sentence that's short and precise, avoids ambiguity. And Fana says a strong statement with a good explanation. Okay, Gwendolyn, it has to trigger the reader to read further. I know, that's what I'm saying about interesting. I want to read your paper and be like, wow, let me know more. I want to know what you have to say. So yes, sorry, I'm excited about thesis statements. I'm coughing. Yes, Gwendolyn, I want to know more. Okay, so trigger. It has to attract me to your point of view. Okay, so you want to have a sexy thesis statement to attract your reader. Okay, all right. I also, interesting is perhaps more relevant for news headlines and scholarly thesis. Roberta has a good point. A good point. Yeah. You don't want to, you want to make sure it's logical, but maybe, this might be a little bit, you don't want to make it too dramatic, okay? So